While exploring the Beverly Heritage Center, visitors will come across a large wooden piece entering the Hill building. This is a barn loom, constructed in 1868 by famed bridge builder Lemuel Chenoweth, who is covered more in depth in our Turnpike Bank exhibit. I will be showing how we create a basic weave using this loom and its quirk that differentiates it from other looms in its time through today. This video is for informational purposes. Please do not try and use our loom when in the Heritage Center. This is an artifact that should only be interacted with by museum staff and those given special permission. I also want to note I am not an experienced weaver and only possess a basic understanding of the craft in our piece. For deeper explanations, please explore Practicing Artist Craft Guides. This guide starts with the warp already set up and ready to weave. To begin weaving, you must first tighten the warp and adjust to have the space to move weft through it. Warp is the vertical lines of strings that are woven through. Weft is the horizontal lines of string or fabric that you create the weave with. We tighten the warp through two gears that are placed at the front and back of the loom. The front gear rotates the cloth beam, which rolls up the completed weaving. The back gear adjusts the warp beam, which contains the warp string for continued weaving. Most looms are designed to rotate clockwise, but for unknown reasons, the 1868 Chenoweth loom was constructed to operate with the warp beam run counterclockwise and does not function if attempted in the normal manner. When weaving, the warp should be kept tight to open up the window to run the weft. When not in use, the warp beam should be loosened to reduce strain and damage to warp strings. With the warp strings tightened, you are ready to adjust the heddles to create your weave pattern. Heddles are these pieces which individually hold and raise warp strings as you press the treadles below with your feet. Through combinations of pressing these pumps, more complicated weaves can be produced. However, this loom's heddle system is a bit weak and struggles to create a lot of space for the weft, so I will use the basic weave pattern, which alternates pressing the first and third with the second and fourth treadles. If the heddles are in correct placement, there will be a space between the warp thread sets known as a shed. This is where the weft is ran through. As you pass the weft through, make sure it is passing through properly and no strings are accidentally going over or under when they shouldn't. Missing a string occasionally isn't a major issue, but many mistakes will weaken the weaving significantly. After passing a weft or two through the warp, you should pound them into the previous weaving to ensure little space is left between the wefts. You use this large piece called the beater to do so. Push and then pull firmly on the beater and its momentum will beat your weft in, strengthening the weaving. The 1868 Chenoweth loom has some issues with keeping its tension through this process, so I will often stand and apply pressure to the warp beam while I use the beater. Continue to use the weft string and beater as you weave, and adjust the cloth and warp beam as you progress through the warp to keep your shed wide. Weaving and fiber arts have a rich history in Randolph County, from early days of Appalachian self-reliance with careful resource management and reuse, through the Depression-era New Deal Homestead School in nearby Daly, to current day with the active Mountain Weavers Guild based in Elkins. Special thanks to Joan Pitts and the Mountain Weavers Guild for providing assistance in working this loom and setting it up. Thanks also to the John Lloyd family in Philippi for donating this artifact in 2019. My name is Griffin Nordstrom, one of the AmeriCorps members serving at the Beverly Heritage Center in the 2022-2023 term. Thank you for watching this video on how we use the 1868 Chenoweth loom.